Welcome to Paul's Passive House. As you can tell, I've jumped ahead a little bit. I've removed all the zip system sheathing, marked it, and set it alongside the north wall. With the zip system out of the way, I'm able now to address this right side. Now, as I mentioned before, I have to be very careful when I remove the sheathing from the right side because it is the only thing at this moment holding up the house. If there was a wind to come from the south or the north with any force, it is possible that this entire addition could tip over. So I have to keep that in mind. One aspect of construction regarding my house is that it is monopoly frame, which means essentially that there are no overhang. You can see that really well here now that I'm outside. There's no overhangs over any of the doorways or windows. This is a huge disadvantage when performing a retrofit like this. If I had an overhang, it would be much easier for me to incorporate exterior insulation into that overhang and therefore into the building envelope itself. Now, monopoly framing is great if you have to redo the roof, but interestingly, I just did the roof a couple years back, so I'm not going to redo it again. And that makes monopoly framing a huge detriment in my efforts. As I progress, you'll notice that things are moving along a lot quicker now. I'm employing saws and pry bars where I wasn't before. It's time to get this project moving. Another interesting aspect of building construction is the folks that decided to do this addition didn't put pressure treated wood at the bottom of the sill plates where it connects with the concrete. This is against code. I'm not sure why they didn't do that, but they didn't. They also did a terrible job of sealing underneath that sill plate. There is a sill plate gasket, but it is definitely not airtight. After I finish this upgrade, I'm going to address that seam specifically, and it will be not only airtight, but fully insulated. My plan for sealing the sill plate where it meets with the concrete is to use a liquid flashing. I'm thinking probably zip system liquid flashing, but there are a few to choose from. I'm going to mask off the concrete, I'm going to flash it with the liquid membrane, and then I'm going to pull the masking to reveal a nice clean line. From there, I can decide if I want to insulate that slab and even insulate it further below grade if necessary. Now that I've got that corner piece removed, it's time for me to take out that insulation, cut out the paper vapor barrier, and install the mineral wool. For those of you that are wondering why I'm taking out fiberglass insulation just to install mineral wool insulation, it's because the fiberglass insulation has a lower R value and it also is faced. And I don't want faced insulation inside my stud bays. I said it in my last video, but I'll say it here again. It's very important to clean up as you go. Nails, screws, and other debris is not something you want just laying around in your yard. Since the last time I recorded, I've moved a lot of stuff out of this addition and into the backyard. I have a pergola in the backyard and I'm using it now for storage. I wrapped it in tarps and have put most of my supplies on pallets underneath the pergola and also underneath those tarps. This was instrumental in moving this project along as I could no longer keep things in my addition due to the fact that I was going to be covering up these windows. There was no easy way for me to get things in and out of this addition anymore, so I decided to move everything. Now, of course, I did this off camera. It's not interesting for you to watch me move things around, but that's why I keep going off to the left of the camera, because I'm going to get supplies that are just off camera. There's something so satisfying about seeing a nearly finished wall. It's time for me to measure and plan for the studs that I'm going to install in that window. Off camera, I cut those studs and then I just pre-fitted them, and now I'm going to drill them and screw them into place. To accomplish this, I'm using a jig. It clamps down on the end of the 2x4 and allows me to drill a perfect hole that's countersunk at exactly the right angle to connect it to the cross member beneath and above it. This makes it very easy to install these 2x4s. Now, in the future, I'm going to be doing some framing with a framing nailer. If you have the means, I highly recommend buying nailers, especially the battery-operated nailers. They're incredibly useful, they're very powerful, and they make the process of installation much faster. Now, I would use a nailer to install all the zip system sheathing except for the fact that this zip system is too thick. I have to use a 4-inch nail to properly secure it to the studs, and I can't find a nailer that shoots 4-inch nails. Perhaps one exists, but I wasn't able to locate one at a reasonable price. For those of you that are wondering, the mineral wool is an R15 and the zip system sheathing is an R13. Obviously, I had a little mix-up there. I've numbered this sheathing so that it all goes right back the way it originally went. One question I hear fairly often when I talk to people about this project is, well, why do you want your house to be so efficient? It almost makes me feel like maybe I should just backhand them across the face and move on. But generally speaking, I like to say, well, it's because I want my house to be as small of a carbon footprint as possible, but also as independent as possible. In the not so distant future, it's very likely that we're going to see issues with electricity. And so the less electricity my house uses to maintain heating and cooling and everything else, the better. That means the smaller my solar array can be, and the fewer batteries I need to charge and maintain my house's electricity needs. Making your house the most efficient house possible isn't just a vanity project or an obsession like I've referred to earlier. It's also peace of mind for the future. With more and more people electrifying their homes, our power grids are very likely to fail. I won't have to worry about that because I'll have the smallest footprint possible and I'll have everything in place to maintain this house indefinitely. As part of my strategy as I age, I plan to do a lot of traveling. Having an ultra-high efficiency home is an added benefit when you're not planning on being there very often. This means that your energy bills are going to be the lowest possible while you're not there using the house. That's a huge advantage for me as I get into my senior years. Now, I don't think I'm going to be living in the United States as a senior citizen. It's not a very friendly place to be elderly, so I'll probably move to Europe. But if something happens and I have to stay here, this house will be very easy for me to maintain as an older person. And if I decide to do some traveling, it won't break my bank if I do it in the middle of winter or in the middle of summer. It'll be easy for me to maintain maintain a climate-controlled environment while I'm gone without costing me hundreds and hundreds of dollars every month. That all adds up, especially when you're traveling, and with such a high-efficiency home, I'll be able to travel with ease and peace of mind, knowing that it's not going to cost me a lot of money to maintain this home while I'm gone.